to the time, but I welcome everybody, whoever is out there. And to give you a little bit housekeeping here is that you have a chat. That's the only way, but it's the best way to communicate with us. So please do send your questions, your reactions, show that you're there, say hello, tell us where you are from. And that's all we're going to ask you. The rest, names and things like that, you can keep it for yourself because we don't have to know everybody in case you want to be known. Obviously, please let us know. Let everybody know that you're here watching. This is going to be in two different phases, as you know. We have the live show, and then you can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. So I think that's the only things that I wanted to tell you. Reminding everybody that you change the world is really a theme that comes back constantly in coaching and mediation because people do not realize how much they impact other people in any capacity, at work, in the family, in the street. People can have an impact on other people. And that's what you see here with our guests last week with Ari, the week before with Pierre. And since about, this is the fifth of the series right now today, you can see and watch and hear how much people can really impact other people. And this is what I welcome Katherine tonight to do with us because Katherine is someone who, like me and many others out there, dedicates a lot of time with family, with work, professional obligations, accountability, dynamics, and all of that happen to her every single day. And with the challenges, nevertheless, Katherine is one of the rare people that I met who is a very authentic person. And this is why I think we're going to get a fun show today. And that's the next 30 minutes, 29 minutes, we'll be together sharing Katherine's story if she wants to share it. So, Katherine, welcome. Thank you for being here.
André, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I am not quite sure what to expect, but I trust you. We've had a great relationship and only positive experiences. So I'm looking forward to talking with you, and I'll probably learn something too. So that's good.
Okay, we all do, believe me. So, Katherine, if we want to, in a nutshell, very, very like a very 1 minute, say who Katherine is, what would you say?
Oh,
You're on the
it's one
spot
of those
already. I'm
questions,
sorry.
isn't it? Who is Catherine? Ooh, I I'm the kind of person who's very much what you see is what you get.
Right.
And I have a I have a I guess my life has been sort of started out very much like a dystopian science fiction novel. And then around the age of 10, it turned into the American dream. So it's a very interesting background, and especially lately, in the last 5 years or so, as I've hit, officially middle age and beyond, um, the way I've been thinking about who I am and how I want to be in the world is definitely been evolving quickly.
That's very interesting. So good. That's a good presentation. I think really people can get a little bit of a sample of what it is. But a person is complex. It's a whole lifetime. Obviously, we cannot understand everything about you in a minute, but you give a good angle. I think it's interesting. So, what is that American dream about? If you would describe it in a few words.
Well, for a long time, it was clear sailing. For a long time, it was everything I touched, whether it was work or relationships, family, romantic relationships, all of it. Work, I've already said work. Um, yeah, it just seemed like nothing could go wrong.
Right.
And that's pretty much how it was into my probably mid 30s. So, and then I think and me a little bit through our other conversations, and I've always been incredibly grateful for what I have because of the dystopian sci-fi first years of life. I've always been incredibly grateful for what I have. Um, but I definitely come to really appreciate the what some people call the touchy feely. But I think you call it that connection, right? That emotional connection. That hey, this person feels what my soul feels. They've been there with me, and I started to realize how important that is.
Oh, you're saying something really powerful here. So, who are the people that you're talking about? No,
Well,
no names. Just what, who are they in your circle? How could you define that circle of people that count for you?
Andre, I that's a great question. It's anybody. Um, I'm incredibly curious to the point of obnoxiousness. Um, so my nickname is Curious Georgina for my husband because I always want to know why, right? Why
Yes.
does this happen? Why do they do this? What do people here do? And it's just one of those things. And I think for a long time, into my 30s and early 40s, you talk a lot about consciousness. And with the exception of that first 10 years of my life, I had this, I don't know, everything I touched uh, was just good. And
Yes.
so when you say the American dream, it's like, okay, husband, wonderful, helpful, great relationship, check. Children, boy and a girl, wonderful children. Okay.
Yes.
Despite my complaints, they're just great kids. My family, my extended family, my family that I have not seen in years in China, and reconnecting back with my ancestral land, the heritage there, and then just at work, I meet so many different people at work. I've been fortunate enough throughout my career to work in large organizations with the ability to interact and get to know lots of people from lots of different parts of the world. And it's strange because I'm sort of seen by those close to me as someone who's not very emotional.
Right.
But the emotions I started to feel when I saw that commonality, right? Whether it was in India or UK, in London or in France or Germany, we're all really similar.
Yes. So, can
And
you just elaborate a little bit on what you feel that you're similar? Because here, what we're describing or focusing on a little bit is your relationships, like
yeah,
how they develop through that American dream, in other words, or American or not American, because you said you're worldly and you went around the world. What is it that is special about that circle?
well, I think what's special is when we peel it all away and we peel all the cultural norms and the cultural sort of unspoken um, etiquette, what
Yeah.
you find is most people want the same thing. They want to have food on the table, a nice warm place to live. They want a good relationship with a spouse or a partner. And most of all, we all care a ton about our kids.
Yes.
And then when you peel back that and you're able to interact and connect with an individual on that human to human level, um, a great way to say it is I can't understand why there are such things as us and them, or prejudice of any kind, because we're all the same. We all
Yes.
want the same things. And I think that the speed at which we work now, I've been in tech my whole life, so
Yes.
everything happens fast. Okay.
Right.
And I was just on the phone with someone earlier, and she said, "Oh, I've been in tech environments before. I know how fast things are." And I thought, not with a growth company like the one we're in that's growing 30% a year on 5 or 6 billion. That's unheard of. So I see myself and others getting sucked into that sort of perform standards of success, constant promotion, right? Nice house, nice car, the whole, I don't
Yes.
know, it's a facade.
Right.
Okay. But
Yes.
underneath it all,
Yes.
we all want the same thing. You can. I talk to many of my friends and folks that I meet in my travels, and the number one goal for our children, all of us, is we want them to be happy. Nobody's saying I want my kid to be a CEO or a doctor or whatever it is. They're just saying I want my kid to be happy.
That's right. So developing or raising children would be about focusing on what they like, of who they are, and facilitate, enable them to blossom and to be really themselves and really be happy that way. I think,
Yeah,
right?
well, and it's interesting because raising children is kind of like leading a team.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
There's a lot of similarities, right?
Yes,
And one of the things I had to learn early in my career when I became a leader was, hey, I can't behave the way I want to with anybody, right? That it's much more effective if I first assess, hey, what's André like? What's the best way to motivate him? What's the best way to get the best out of him?
right,
Right. And that was incredibly helpful as I started raising my own children, because I treat my two children very differently because they're so different.
right. That's the thing that I find interesting when I talk to leaders like you, is that you have this multiple experience on a daily basis and in the moment by moment, challenged by inspiring people, by having an impact on them, by motivating them, as you just said, or by calming or giving some tranquility to a child, and making sure that the child feels comfortable. So it's all kind of an accountability of yours. You're really kind of responsible for making it possible for people. Uh,
Well, I want to be responsible,
yeah,
right? So I wasn't responsible for a long time. I mean, whoever's watching this who knows me, they're probably thinking, oh, sometimes she can be like a cyclone, that flew in. And, I have not always been responsible in terms of being attuned and taking the moment, a little time to maybe suspend um, any kind of I don't even want to say judgment. That's such a strong word, right? But I've learned to roll with the punches. And so,
right.
I said a few years ago I needed to work on patience. Well, never ask for that, because I did, and boy, do I have lessons in patience every single day.
so so good. I'm interested now to maybe ask you to connect with something that I find to be somehow a little bit challenging with everybody. This is your awareness of how people perceive you. So, how would you say that people perceive you? What do they say? What is their experience of you?
People either love me or they don't know what to do with me.
So I'm not going to challenge you to ask you what do who are those who cannot don't know what to do
Well,
with you?
no, no, no. I think I think maybe an appropriate response would be, I'm very intense. I get super excited, right? I'm very excited, and I have a lot of different ideas. Now, I don't know if it's a help or a hindrance that I've been doing my work for 25 plus years. And so, the nice part is that, what takes someone maybe 2 weeks to do, I can probably do it in a couple of hours because I've done it so many times,
Yeah,
right?
you're
Even
very
though
good.
the subject matter is different, I kind of know what I need to do each time. And one of the and this is not coming from an arrogant perspective. However, one of the downsides of kind of having done this over and over again is you're going to be several steps ahead of other people. And in the last 5 or 8 years, what I've started to realize is, I have to slow down
Yeah,
and show more of maybe what I'm showing now, who I
yeah,
am authentically as a human being. Um, I've received quite a bit of feedback about, gosh, you can be overbearing, or, you debate too much and it makes people feel intimidated. And, for a long time, I thought, well, yeah, but we're doing what we need to do. Now I'm at the point where it's more like, okay, well, this is kind of where we want to go. And, we're going to have to see how ready everybody else around us is to get there, and we may never get there. So what am I going to do? I'm going to keep doing what I do, but how do I turn that intensity into something a bit more nurturing and a little bit easier for people to interact with?
Okay, so to rephrase a little bit what you're saying is that when they are challenged by space, by pressure, by intensity, you have a specialty somehow to put them in a comfortable space.
Um, Not everybody. It definitely depends on whom, but otherwise, people just see me as, super assertive,
Okay, assertive.
right?
Yeah,
And so I want to kind of take that back, that whole my way or the highway. And when
right.
you have that much passion, it can be interpreted as that.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
So that's
But
good.
that's not really what I'm saying. I'm just passionate about saying, hey, you know, let's get the full picture. Let's get to the root of this problem. Let's not, have a headache for 5 years and take every drug known to humankind. Maybe we should get an MRI.
Right, right. But this awareness of yours, whoever you're going to meet tomorrow or whoever you meet right now in the moment, you some kind of a have a mindset that I would love. I'm curious to know what it is. So, in other words, you talk about work, you talk a bit about the children, but in general, Catherine, what does she do when she faces someone you know that you're full of passion and intensity, and that person has also a need for you to receive your message, to receive your communication. So what do you do in order to fight to tune out, to put yourself on the same wavelength?
Well, as cliche as it sounds, this idea of positive psychology has been intriguing to me, and I've applied it just a tiny bit. Okay, I'm
Okay.
not an expert in it, but the idea of focusing on where someone's strong, and then having discussions with them about what they want to do, whether it's your child or an employee or a teammate or whoever it is, right, or even a spouse, then you kind of establish that shared vision that says, okay, I want to do this. So I had someone working for me a few years back, really brilliant gentleman. Um, when I took on the organization, he was kind of like a specialist project person. Okay. And I needed a leader in that location. And we spent a lot of time together. And long story short, he's a senior director now, okay, for a
Right.
tech company in a pretty prestigious job. And that had to do with two things. One, he was open to learning. Two, I was very interested because I needed a leader. So I was really searching. So I asked a lot of questions. I gave him a lot of space to talk.
Okay. Okay, so one style of yours, one way you impact people, and you can in fact open up for them opportunities to grow, seems to be your curiosity, your charisma, and this assertive type of thing that you said you sometimes convey. In other words, assertion here in this case is clarity. Maybe it's guidance, it's direction, clarity.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I call it the Catherine Barbara Walters interview process.
Yeah.
So, because
Yes.
investigative reporters, right? People who do a really good job interviewing others, they have a style, and the approach is really ask the right questions, don't say too much,
Yeah.
and let the other person talk.
Yes.
Okay. Another style I use, especially with larger organizations or larger groups of people, is empowerment.
Right.
I've come from the place fundamentally that we are all the same and we all have greatness in us.
You talk about
Okay.
China, right? Are you talking about China? No.
No, I'm talking about the workplace. I'm talking
The
about
workplace. No, because
a
in
sense.
China, I thought you were talking about China in terms of uniformity. But America has this thing in common with uniformity. There's a lot of uniformity, meaning
Oh, I could never survive in China. I'm way too much of an individualist.
that's what I meant. I just want to make
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
everybody
No,
understands
the
what I
East
meant.
Asian culture is not. I'm
Yeah.
American through and through. That being said, though, um, I believe, especially in a professional environment, I believe everyone has merit. And I actually prefer what I call diamonds in the rough. Does this person have the potential? Do they have the mindset? Are they able to connect the dots and see the forest for the trees?
Right.
Those are the types of skills I'm looking for. It doesn't matter to me when you went where you went to school or where, you've worked per se, or your job title. What matters to me is, do you understand your subject matter, and have you given it thought beyond just the day-to-day, tactical, I got to check off my to-do list. And I for a long time in my career, when I led large teams, my entire approach was empowerment.
Right.
I think another advantage I have, for whatever reason, is I seem to remember, not just in my mind, but emotionally remember what it was like to be a child, what it was like to be early in career, what the hopes and wishes and the fears were.
Mhm.
And so I channel a lot of that from an empowerment perspective, trying to help others who may be where I was, but through empowerment.
Yeah. You put yourself in their shoes, so to speak,
Yeah.
and that gives them an opportunity to grow. So let's try to touch on something a little bit more, a little deeper. You say the title of this program is "You Change the World," as I said in the beginning, because I realize how many people do not connect with the fact that they change people's lives. So if you could think of one person or one situation where you think you really changed someone's path, what would it be if you could remember?
Hey, surprisingly, there is a situation.
Right.
I don't think it's the only one, but it's the one I know of. And keep in mind, as I tell this small story, that you're talking to a person who, before the age of 35, was incredibly in tuned to the emotional climate around me and the individuals, but completely blind when it came to self-awareness.
All right. It's here's another
So,
statement. Yes.
yeah. So, about 10 years ago, I was leading a really large team, a global team, all locations, every, kind of Europe, Asia, Middle East, of course, Americas. And this organization was super important to the company in terms of its basic operations. However, it was not a very prestigious group to be a part of.
Okay.
And so, because I had started, like everybody else, at the very bottom, or some people at least, they really resonated for me. Their experience resonated for me because I had that experience. And the only difference between me and them is I happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
Okay. So, the IQ wasn't any higher or lower. But the team was really downtrodden, right? Because they were so tied to the operations, and because they had to do the work that essentially allow the company to actually report its financials for every quarter.
Okay.
It was a lot of work in a condensed period, and sometimes we would stay up 24 hours a day. And I really wanted to empower this team, knowing what they could do for the business. However, they were quite downtrodden. There was a variety of issues, right? Bad management, comp issues, all kinds of stuff. And I started talking very much around empowerment. And one of the things I said to the team in an all hands was, hey, we control our destinies.
Yes.
We can do what we want, right?
Yes.
Don't be limited to the box you think you have to fit into.
Yes.
These are our guiding principles. And as long as we are working for those guiding principles, then I don't see us going off course very much. And with our peers and colleagues across the globe, we have centuries of experience that we can tap into anytime.
Okay. Yeah.
And this was very much the theme for at least one fiscal year, if not more, right? Because the more I empower the team, the better they did.
Okay.
And so a few years later, I was still in the same company. And one of the ladies who was in the group in our Dublin office came up to me and said, Catherine, you know, I want to thank you so much. You know, I don't know if you're aware, but you really had a huge impact on me. I was in an abusive relationship, and after after all hands and just the general culture of the organization, I ended up leaving that abusive relationship because you said we can control our destiny, and I took that to heart, and I was floored. No clue. No
Wow.
clue whatsoever.
You know, I tell you something. Thank you for sharing that story, because with the pandemic situation, people working from home, right? Um, I could see one of the biggest worry, tension that people go through is that they are aligning themselves with different kind of structures that they bring home. In other words, they used to work in an office environment. Now they are back in their apartment in front of their bed or in a corner where they put a desk, and all day long or for hours behind the computer, they deal with different people, and you do probably the same. And but what's interesting is they don't realize that they are their own boss. In fact, the fact that they're home, they should really realize it even more, that they have almost all prerogative. I always ask this question, how much time is driven and how much time do you drive? In other words, if it's a 60-40, it will tell me 60% of my time I have to attend some meetings, I have to do this, I have to do that. I said, ooh, 60% is much too much, right? And then the other proportion of 40% is when they feel really they are in the driving seat. So
Mhm.
when you make them realize that they have this real freedom to organize themselves, to give a little time to their children in the middle of the day, which we never did before, that they can really decide what and how to organize their day. To a certain extent, it's very new to them. Sometimes it's so challenging for them that they realize that they're really their own boss. But the expectations, that's what I want to say, from their employer in general, at any level, is that they really would like them to be responsible for that. And when you make them realize that, it's a breakthrough. It's a literal breakthrough. So I can understand this impact you had on her, because the abuse you were referring to, I think, could be probably part of it. Could be that she was her hands were tight, and she
Or
didn't.
maybe it didn't occur to her that there were options out there that,
Right.
right? It's interesting, and I'm quite a study of human behavior, mostly out of curiosity again. But sometimes if you live on a flat world or you think you live on a flat world, then it's difficult to understand. There's a multitude of dimensions available.
Mhm.
So we're sort of limiting our own mindset, and um, whether I'm mentoring or leading a team or talking to my children or my friends, right? What I try to do is say, hey, let's turn this thing on its head. What else can we do?
Right. Well, in a challenging world like we are in today, someone like you using empowerment, right? We're using your terminology of empowerment as the I would say the tool or the key to change some people's or an individual or a group of people and many people sometimes path or pathway is unbelievable. I really tell you, this is something that I learned from you today that is important, I think, in leadership, and especially I tell you what. And let me ask you what you think about this: a distinction between building your own team and inheriting from an existing team. I think the story you were telling us was that you were inheriting from a team. That's the most challenging thing for a leader, because you are replacing someone or you come after someone, and it is the new person now that is coming, the new boss. It's much more difficult than hiring your own people and building your own team. So I think it's very nice. So what do you say about that? The difference between the two. I think you experience both of that, right? Both of
Neither are foolproof. I've
right.
built my own team, and then I've lived to regret certain hiring decisions.
Yes.
Okay. Um, at the end of the day, what I try to do is come across and make a real human connection,
Yeah.
right? I don't want people to see me as the big boss.
Right. Right. Yes.
So, I've used multiple approaches. So, for example, I've done brown bag lunches, and it's no management. So it's a ask me anything free for all,
Right.
because I want to know what's happening on the ground. The people on the ground, the people who are doing the thing that you are running, they know everything.
Yes. Yes.
So we have to listen to these people, or else we lose touch. And I will say, with pandemic, without pandemic, um, certain areas I see, right? Certain kind of industries I see where actually the gap between what management, the people who make all the decisions, think is going on, and what's actually going on in reality is not the same.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So that's incredibly wasteful in so many different ways.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
Right. I tell my team, the only reason we have hierarchy is so we can all do our jobs, because you count on me to do my job and I count on you to do your job. But at the end of the day, yes, we don't have the kind of job where you need to be at a desk at a certain time, clock out for a break, then clock out for lunch, and so on and so forth. So do what you need to do and don't overwork, because I've been there and it's not good.
Right. Right. Thank you. Well, we have a good sample of how you impact people and how your influence can really change people's future and present.
Well,
and I really
none of it is by design, right? I went with my instincts. I thought about it as, hey, if I'm this person, if I'm any person, how do I want to be treated?
Yes, yes. And that's your incredible humanity and empathy that you have for people, cutting the hierarchy, making it horizontal, making the collaboration, and making it especially a room for an opportunity. And I think the word trust is important. You are creating a relationship of trust, and that's. Imagine when you are inheriting a new team like that, it's the number one priority. You cannot lead anybody if there is not certain level of trust and mutual trust. Okay. Well, on these very beautiful words, I would like to invite you back one day. Maybe we'll talk about not something exactly the same, but in the context more of maybe anybody's lives, the life path, not necessarily work, and how people can interact in this new 21st century, and especially when they are so virtual or have been so individually absorbed, right? When people have been absorbed like that, there is a disconnect. And I think that people like you can reconnect everything. There is really need of people and leaders that bring people back to some kind of a relationship and connectivity. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's all about relationships.
Yes, exactly.
They're right. Whoever they are that I heard from all these years, it's all about relationships. But it's a genuine relationship. It's one where you and the other person actually care for each other as living, breathing human beings. And that, I think that's a big difference from what, our society does today. So anyway.
Well, that's an ideal situation. It's an ideal situation. We know there is challenges for people to cope with that kind of framework. But this is interesting that you're describing it that way. And again, you inviting people to be responsible, to be connecting with you, to be in a relationship with you, and to communicate with you. So, and you inspire them to do that, and that's how you can really get an impact on them. So, I think this is a perfect example. Katherine, I cannot thank you enough for joining me today on this program, because you changed the world, and everybody changed the world. And I really hope that they got something from this. Anyway, I did. And
well, I'm in good company with another world changer. So
yeah. Okay, thank you. Good luck for everything that you do, and stay healthy.
Will do. Thank you. You as well. Take care, André.
Take care. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.